The Vorkarian scientist recoiled in terror as Jordan coughed in the medical bay. The humans' microbes would soon doom their pathetic alien world. Jordan Stevens slowly sat up in the oval pod, a biting chill clinging to his skin as he took in the foreign sights of sleek chrome walls and pulsing lights. His head throbbed and his vision blurred, the 34-year-old astronaut's mind reeling to make sense of his surroundings. A slender figure stepped into view, its lithe frame wrapped in a form-fitting silver suit, large obsidian eyes fixed on Jordan with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Greetings, Jordan Stevens. I am Sagan, a scientist of the Vorkarian race. You have been in a coma for 2 weeks following the crash of your ship in our system's asteroid belt." Jordan blinked, struggling to process the information. "Crash? Asteroids? Where the hell am I?" Sagan tilted his head, studying the human intently. "Your vessel's distress signal led us to you. We were surprised to find you alive, given your species' frail physiology." A sudden wave of panic gripped Jordan's chest. "I need to get back to Earth now." The Vorkarian's demeanor shifted, his tone turning soft but firm. "I'm afraid that's not possible. Earth is a quarantined death world, far too dangerous for any civilized race to visit. Deadly predators, toxic plants, virulent diseases. It is a miracle your kind has survived at all. The Galactic Council has declared it off-limits for your own protection." Jordan's mind raced as he tried to make sense of Sagan's words. Quarantined? Death world? It couldn't be true. "I don't care what your council says. Earth is my home. You have no right to keep me from it." Sagan shook his head, a hint of pity in his dark eyes. "You must understand, Jordan. Your people are primitive, centuries behind the technological threshold for first contact. It is for your own good that you remain under our care and guidance." Just then an ear-splitting alarm filled the room, red lights flashing along the walls. Sagan's eyes widened in horror as he pressed a button on his suit's collar. "A microbial contamination has been detected, originating from the human, initiating immediate quarantine protocol." Jordan tried to protest, but his words were drowned out by the blaring klaxon. A robotic drone entered the medical bay, its spindly metal arms reaching out to grab him. He struggled against its grip, but the machine was too strong, dragging him towards a small, sterile chamber in the far wall. As the isolation room's door sealed shut behind him, Jordan slammed his fists against the reinforced glass. His heart pounding in his chest, he had to find a way out of this nightmare to prove to these arrogant aliens that they had grossly underestimated the resilience and determination of the human race. The Vorkarians thought they could dismiss Earth as a backward, savage world. But they would soon learn the true strength of those who called that death world home. Jordan paced the small isolation cell, his mind racing as he tried to recall the events that led him here. The mission had started out so promising, the Armstrong and her crew setting out to establish humanity's first outpost beyond Sol. They had made a series of carefully plotted Alcubierre jumps, riding the edge of the Orion Arm. But then something went wrong. Closing his eyes, Jordan could see it all replaying in his mind's eye. The blaring proximity alarms, the panicked shouts of the crew. They had been caught in the gravity well of a rogue planet, its mass hidden in the black void between stars. Captain Alvarez had ordered full reverse thrust, but it was no use. The Armstrong was dragged inexorably down into the planet's atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot. Jordan had barely made it to an escape pod before the ship started to break apart around him. He could still feel the wrenching force as the pod blasted away, could still see the Armstrong's wreckage burning as it fell away beneath him. Then the pod's power failed, and everything went black. The next thing Jordan knew, he was waking up here, a captive of these strange, grey aliens. A chime sounded, and Sagan's voice came over the intercom, shaking Jordan from his dark memories. "Mr. Stevens, I apologize for the abrupt quarantine procedures. I'm sure this is all quite overwhelming for you." "So you think?" Jordan snapped, glaring up at the observation camera. "Your tin can robots dragged me in here and locked me up like an animal. I demand to speak to someone in charge." "I understand your frustration," Sagan said, his tone maddeningly calm. But the quarantine is a necessary precaution. Our scans detected several unknown strains of bacteria in your system. We must ensure there is no risk of harmful contamination. Jordan rolled his eyes. Unknown to you, maybe. That's just my natural microbiome. I've got trillions of bacteria living in and on me. They're harmless. There was a momentary silence. Then Sagan spoke again, a hint of fascination in his voice. Intriguing. Your immune system has adapted to coexist with potentially pathogenic organisms. Perhaps there are certain advantages to evolving on a high-risk biosphere like Earth. Jordan opened his mouth to retort, but was cut off by a sudden flashing of warning lights inside the isolation cell. An automated voice announced, "Unknown bioorganic signature detected in subject's bloodstream. Administering broad-spectrum antibiotic." Jordan's eyes widened as he saw the cell's robotic arms unfolding from the walls, syringes glinting on their tips. They must have detected his Sci-Fi implant, the biomechanical augment that was standard issue for all UNSA personnel. He lunged for the intercom panel, shouting into it, "Sagan, wait, you don't understand. I have implants. The antibiotics will—" But it was too late. Jordan felt a sharp sting as the syringes plunged into his neck. Immediately, a searing pain ripped through his body, and he collapsed to the floor, convulsing uncontrollably. He could feel the foreign compounds flooding his bloodstream, attacking the delicate nanomachinery of his Sci-Fi implant. As darkness closed in around the edges of his vision, Jordan could only wonder what other horrors this alien world had in store for him. Time slowed to a crawl as Jordan lay crumpled on the floor of the isolation chamber, his body racked with spasms from the antibiotic Sagan had injected him with. Inside him, the delicate biomechanical nanomachinery of his Sci-Fi implant reacted to the foreign chemical, assessing it as a dire threat. In an instant, the implant released a torrent of specialized nanobots into Jordan's bloodstream. The microscopic machines swarmed through his veins, rapidly analyzing the molecular structure of the antibiotic. They immediately began to replicate, doubling their numbers every few seconds as they adapted to neutralize the harmful compound. Sagan watched the monitor, his obsidian eyes wide with disbelief, as Jordan's vital signs stabilized mere minutes after the injection. The human's brain activity, respiration, and heart rate all returned to baseline norms. Then, astonishingly, they began to improve, exceeding any metrics the Vorkarian had ever seen for an Earthborn creature. Jordan's eyes snapped open and he gasped, suddenly aware of a thrumming sensation deep within his body. It was as if a second heart was beating in his chest, pumping not blood, but pure, undiluted power through his system. He rose to his feet, marveling at the newfound strength coursing through his muscles. "Incredible," Sagan breathed, studying the readouts streaming across his holoscreen. His physiology is adapting at an unprecedented rate. Muscle density up 5%, reflex speed increased by 12%, and this brainwave pattern, I've never seen such perfect synchronization between hemispheres. The Vorkarian turned to his console and opened a communication channel. "Commander, I must request permission to bring the human to the homeworld immediately. The potential applications of his adaptive biology could revolutionize our understanding of genetic engineering." There was a pause, then a voice crackled over the link. "Request granted, Sagan. The Council is most intrigued by your findings. Prepare the human for transport." Sagan turned back to the isolation chamber, where Jordan was examining his hands in amazement, flexing his fingers as if seeing them for the first time. "Jordan Stevens, I have exciting news. You are to be my guest on Vorkar Prime, where our finest scientific minds will have the privilege of studying your remarkable physiology." Jordan looked up, his eyes narrowing. "I'm not some lab rat for you to poke and prod." "Quite the contrary," Sagan replied, laying a slender hand on Jordan's shoulder as the chamber door slid open. "You are an ambassador, living proof of the indomitable spirit and vast potential of the human species. Come, our transport awaits." As they strode through the gleaming corridors of the medical facility, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a sharp turn into the unknown. The Sci-Fi nanobots continued their relentless march through his system, repairing and optimizing every cell they encountered. Sagan ushered Jordan into a sleek, ovoid craft that hummed with barely restrained power. As the human settled into the co-pilot's seat, Sagan busied himself with the pre-flight checks, his long fingers dancing over the holographic controls. "We will be traversing some of the busiest space lanes in the galaxy," Sagan said, as the ship lifted off, the stars blurring into streaks of light beyond the viewport. "Vorkar Prime is the beating heart of our civilization, the nexus of our technological and cultural achievements." Jordan barely heard him. He was staring out at the vast expanse of the universe, wondering what other wonders and terrors lay in wait for him. He knew that he was about to embark on a journey that would change not only his own life, but potentially the fate of his entire species. In the depths of his being, the nanobots continued their tireless work, evolving, adapting, unlocking hidden reserves of strength and resilience. Jordan closed his eyes, feeling the boundless energy thrumming through his veins. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them head-on, armed with the indomitable spirit of humanity and the cutting-edge technology that flowed through his blood. The journey had only just begun. The sleek Vorkarian ship glided through the star-speckled void, drawing ever closer to the looming capital world. Jordan peered through the viewport, his enhanced vision picking out the glittering spires and sprawling megastructures that covered the planet's surface. Suddenly the ship's proximity alarms blared. Sagan's long fingers danced over the control panel as he brought up the aft sensors. "A patrol ship," he hissed, obsidian eyes narrowing. "Heavily armed. They're hailing us." A stern voice crackled over the comm, speaking in clipped Vorkarian. Sagan's face fell as he listened, his skin turning an even paler shade of grey. "What is it?" Jordan demanded. Sagan turned to him, his expression grim. "The Galactic Council knows you're here. They're demanding I turn you over for questioning. They think you're a threat, Jordan. A primitive from a quarantined death world." Jordan's fists clenched. "Like hell I'm going with them. We have to—" He broke off as a wave of vertigo washed over him, the nanobots in his bloodstream suddenly kicking into overdrive. Closing his eyes, he saw flashes of data streaming past his mind's eye, a torrent of ones and zeros that resolved into a schematic of the patrol ship's weapon systems. "Jordan!" Sagan's voice seemed to come from far away. "Jordan, your cerebral activity is spiking. The nanobots are interfacing with your cortex at an unprecedented rate." Jordan shook his head, trying to clear the fog. "I can see inside their ship, Sagan. I can control it, but we need to get out of here. Now." The Vorkarian hesitated for only a moment before his fingers flew over the navigation controls, plotting a new course. The ship lurched as the engines roared to life, hurtling them away from the capital and out towards the fringes of Vorkarian space. Laser blasts lit up the void behind them as the patrol ship gave chase, its weapons hammering at their shields. Jordan gritted his teeth, pouring all his concentration into the mental link with the enemy vessel. He could feel the code streaming through his neurons, rewriting itself in real time to slice through the ship's firewalls. With a final surge of effort, he breached the patrol ship's systems and sent a cascading failure through its power grid. The lasers fell silent as the ship drifted, dead in space. Sagan stared at him, something like awe in his dark eyes. "You disabled them, from inside your own mind." Jordan managed a shaky grin, his head throbbing with the strain. "Guess these nanobots are good for something after all." But even as they spoke, he could feel the machines evolving inside him, weaving themselves ever deeper into his cerebral architecture. Closing his eyes, he let the data flow through him, a million voices whispering in a language only he could understand. And then, like a bolt from the blue, the realization hit him. He could use this link, this connection to the vast data streams between the stars, to send a message to the entire galaxy, to show them the truth about Earth and the human race. "Sagan," he said, his voice thrumming with barely contained excitement, "I have an idea, but I'm going to need your help." Sagan looked at him quizzically as Jordan outlined his plan, explaining how they could piggyback on the Council's own communication network to broadcast a signal to every corner of the galaxy. The Vorkarian's eyes widened as he grasped the sheer audacity of it. "It's never been done," Sagan breathed. "The amount of data required, the complexity of the encryption." "I can handle it," Jordan said firmly. "I can see the pathways in my mind like a roadmap to every star system out there. But I need you to help me interface with the ship, to boost the signal." Sagan hesitated for a long moment, his loyalty to his own people warring with his growing respect for this remarkable human. At last, he gave a curt nod. "Let's do it." Together they worked feverishly to jury-rig the ship's communications array, rerouting power from the engines and life support to the transmitters. Jordan settled into the co-pilot's chair, the nanobots singing in his veins as he prepared to link his mind to the vast data network between the stars. "Ready?" Sagan asked, his finger poised over the activation key. Jordan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. He thought of Earth, of the blue-green jewel that had birthed him, and the billions of other souls that called it home. He thought of the crew of the Armstrong, the brave men and women who had given their lives to push the boundaries of human knowledge. He thought of the Vorkarians, of the countless other races out there among the stars, each with their own hopes and fears, their own triumphs and tragedies. And he knew with a certainty that rang in his bones that this was his destiny, to be the bridge between worlds, the voice that would echo across the cosmos and change the course of history. "Do it," he said. Sagan pressed the key, and Jordan's mind exploded with light. Memories poured through the link, a torrent of images and sensations from a world the galaxy had never seen. The vast oceans and soaring mountains of Earth teeming with a riot of colorful life, the great cities sparkling like jewels in the night. The faces of people from every corner of the planet, united in their diversity, their resilience, their unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Jordan felt the memories streaming out of him, racing across the stars on beams of coherent light. He saw them reaching the far-flung corners of the galaxy, touching the minds and hearts of 1,000,000 different species. He saw the Vorkarians, watching in rapt attention as scenes of Earth's natural beauty played out before them. He saw the Karleth, their crystalline eyes widening in wonder at the sight of human children playing in the sun. He saw the Quilnari, their feathered crests rising in surprise as they witnessed humans laughing, crying, creating art and music. And he saw them start to understand, to realize that humans were not a threat but a promise, a sign of hope in a galaxy beset by darkness and strife. As the last of the memories flowed out of him, Jordan slumped back in his chair, his mind reeling from the strain. Sagan was at his side in an instant, checking his vital signs with a med scanner. "You did it," the Vorkarian said softly, something like awe in his voice. The whole galaxy saw it, felt it. Jordan managed a weak smile. Did it work? Did they understand? Sagan turned to the comm panel, where messages were already pouring in from across the stars. The Galactic Council, the Vorkarian High Command, the leaders of a dozen other races, all clamoring to speak to the human who had opened their eyes. "It worked," Sagan said. "They're ready to listen, Jordan, ready to give Earth a chance." Jordan closed his eyes, feeling a profound sense of exhaustion and elation washing over him. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that there would be challenges and obstacles at every turn. But he also knew that he would face them head-on, armed with the courage and ingenuity of his people, and the knowledge that he was not alone. That there were other beings out there in the vast expanse of the galaxy who were ready to stand with humanity as they took their first steps into a larger universe. "Set a course for Earth," he told Sagan. "It's time to go home." As the Vorkarian ship streaked through the stars, Jordan looked out at the endless expanse of space, feeling a sense of wonder and possibility that he had never known before. The nanobots hummed in his veins, a constant reminder of the strange and miraculous journey that had brought him to this moment. Earth loomed ahead, a blue-green jewel suspended in the infinite black. Jordan felt a lump form in his throat as he watched the planet grow larger in the viewport, a wave of bittersweet nostalgia washing over him. He knew that he could never go back to his old life, to the man he had been before the Armstrong and the crash that had stranded him on an alien world. Too much had changed, both inside him and in the galaxy at large. But he also knew that he had the power to shape a new future for himself and his people, to lead them into an age of discovery and cooperation with their galactic neighbors. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Sagan reached over and clasped Jordan's shoulder, a gesture of friendship and solidarity that needed no translation. Together they watched as the world rushed up to meet them, the first rays of dawn painting the clouds in shades of pink and gold. A new day was breaking, Jordan thought, for Earth and for the galaxy. And he was ready to face it, come what may. Jordan's heart raced as Earth swelled in the viewscreen, a lush blue-green jewel set against the infinite black velvet of space. But as they drew closer, his elation turned to dread. Dozens of massive Vorkarian warships swarmed around the planet like angry hornets, disgorging swarms of fighters and assault craft. Bright flashes lit up the void as the alien vessels rained destruction on humanity's defenseless homeworld. "No," Jordan whispered, his hands clenching into fists. "What have I done?" Sagan's head-tails twitched with agitation as his long grey fingers danced over the sensor controls. "It's Zaxxon," he hissed. "That warmongering fanatic has launched a full-scale invasion." Jordan slammed his fist against the bulkhead, self-loathing and despair welling up inside him. In his naivete, he had revealed Earth's location to the galaxy, and now his people were paying the price. Zaxxon, it seemed, viewed humanity as a threat to be exterminated before they could challenge Vorkarian supremacy. "This is all my fault," Jordan said, his voice breaking. "I've doomed us all." Sagan gripped his shoulder firmly. "You couldn't have known Zaxxon would do this. He's a madman, consumed by paranoia and xenophobia." The Vorkarian's obsidian eyes bored into Jordan's. "But you still have a chance to make this right. Your nanobots give you an edge Zaxxon won't see coming. You may be humanity's last hope." Jordan took a shuddering breath, the weight of billions of lives settling on his shoulders. He reached out with his mind, feeling for the subtle quantum entanglement that linked his nanobots to the Vorkarian data net. Instantly, he was inundated with a flood of tactical data, ship positions, fleet formations, encrypted comm traffic. His brain burned with the effort of processing it all, but he pushed through the pain, sifting for any scrap of intel that could turn the tide. And then he saw it. A schematic of Zaxxon's flagship, the Inexorable, with its quantum computer core pulsing at the heart of the dreadnought. That single system controlled the entire Vorkarian armada. If Jordan could reach it and shut it down, Earth might still have a chance. "I have a plan," he said, his jaw set with grim determination. "But I'll need your help, Sagan." The Vorkarian nodded, his hand already on the ship's weapon controls. "Just get me in range, I'll keep them off your back." Jordan plotted a course straight for the Inexorable, the small scout ship's engines howling as they burned towards the looming dreadnought. Fighters swarmed to intercept them, filling the void with crisscrossing energy beams. Sagan threw the ship into a dizzying series of evasive spirals, the inertial dampeners straining to compensate. 30 seconds to breach point," Sagan yelled over the scream of overstressed engines. Jordan braced himself as the scout ship sliced through the dreadnought's shields, the hull screeching as it scraped along the Inexorable's armored flank. With a bone-jarring thud, they slammed into an emergency airlock, the magnetic clamps locking on. "Go," Sagan shouted, already sprinting for the airlock. "I'll hold them here." Jordan nodded grimly and plunged into the Inexorable's labyrinthine corridors, his nanobots guiding him towards the quantum core. Alarms blared, and emergency bulkheads slammed shut as the ship's security systems registered the intrusion. But Jordan was a blur of motion, his enhanced reflexes letting him sprint along walls and leap over barriers with ease. He burst into the cavernous chamber housing the quantum core, a pulsing sphere of eldritch light, suspended in a web of crackling energy beams. Jordan reached out, his nanobots interfacing with the alien system, translating its cryptic quantum code into something his merely human mind could parse. "You should not be here, Earthling," a cold voice echoed from the shadows. Jordan whirled to see a hulking figure emerge into the pulsing light. It was Zaxxon, the warlord's reptilian features contorted with rage and contempt. "Your kind are a plague," Zaxxon snarled, unsheathing a crackling energy blade. "A disease to be purged before you infect the galaxy with your chaos and barbarism." Jordan felt a simmering anger rising in his chest. "We're not perfect, but we're not the monsters you think we are. We just want a chance to prove ourselves, to find our place among the stars." Zaxxon lunged, his blade slicing through the air. Jordan barely managed to dodge, the searing plasma singeing his hair. He lashed out with a crushing roundhouse, his nanobot-enhanced strength sending Zaxxon staggering back. And then they were on each other, a blur of punches, kicks, and slashes, each drawing on every ounce of skill and strength they possessed. Jordan felt his bones crack and muscles tear as Zaxxon's blows rained down on him, but he pushed through the pain, retaliating with strikes that could shatter concrete. They crashed through the quantum core's containment field, energy cascading around them as they grappled in a whirlwind of flying sparks and debris. Jordan could feel his nanobots struggling to repair the damage to his battered body, feel them starting to falter under the unrelenting onslaught. With a final desperate surge of strength, Jordan seized Zaxxon's blade arm and twisted with all his might. The warlord howled in agony as the limb snapped like a twig, the energy blade clattering to the deck. Jordan drove his knee into Zaxxon's chest, feeling the Vorkarian's ribs shatter under the impact. Zaxxon crumpled, his breath coming in wet, ragged gasps. Jordan staggered to the quantum core's control console, his vision blurring, his blood roaring in his ears. With a monumental effort of will, he extended his mind into the alien system, feeling for the override codes that would shut down the Vorkarian fleet. Energy surged through him, burning out his nanobots as the quantum encryption fell away before his assault. And then it was done. The dreadnought shuddered as its primary systems went offline, the distant thunder of secondary explosions echoing through the hull. On the viewscreens, Jordan watched as the Vorkarian ships drifted aimlessly, their weapons falling silent. He had done it. Earth was safe. But as he slumped to the deck, his strength fading along with the last of his nanobots, Jordan knew it had come at a terrible cost. His body was broken, his miraculous abilities gone, and as Sagan half-carried, half-dragged him back to their battered ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Earth had been defended, but at what price? As they limped back towards the scarred surface of his homeworld, Jordan couldn't help but wonder if humanity was truly ready for the challenges that lay ahead. They had won this battle, but the war for their place in the universe had only just begun. And he would be there to lead them for better or worse. Not as a superhuman, but as a man who had seen the wonders and horrors of the galaxy, and who knew all too well the heavy burden of responsibility that came with that knowledge. The sun was rising over the war-ravaged landscape as they touched down, casting long shadows across the cratered earth. Jordan limped down the ramp, Sagan supporting his weight, and looked out over the shattered remains of his old life. Everything had changed. He had changed. The universe had opened up before him with all its promise and peril. And he knew with a weary certainty that ached in his bones that nothing would ever be the same again. If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.